This is the Behind the Line podcast, and this is Pacific Northwest Headline News for Thursday, May 12th, 2022. Washington State has confirmed its third case of bird flu in less than a week. This one was in Pierce County. Flock owners reached out to the WSDA after an unusual number of sudden deaths in the flocks, which had a mixture of turkeys, chickens, peacocks, ducks, and waterfowl. The area has been quarantined, and those still fighting the virus will be euthanized. The other two cases, which Como News reported on earlier this and last week, were in Loon Lake, a bald eagle, and a Canadian goose in Whatcom County. There are 8 other cases among wild birds under investigation in the state. State officials are saying with so many suspicious cases in wild birds pending investigation, they emphasize how important it is to avoid exposing your flock to wild waterfowl and shorebirds. You're supposed to call the state if you suspect you own birds that are sick and report sick wild birds to the Washington State Department of Fish and Wildlife. This could become a real problem. We already have food shortages, chicken primarily, and if this avian flu sweeps through the U.S., that's just going to be more problems with chicken. The average price for a gallon of regular gas in the Seattle, Bellevue, Everett area hit $5 for the first time ever on Wednesday, according to AAA. Of course, a lot of these places have already been paying over $5 a gallon. The average as of Wednesday morning was $5.01, up nearly 3 cents from Tuesday. That's more than $1.30 compared to a year ago when the average gallon was $3.66 a gallon. Diesel also hit an all-time high in the Seattle area Wednesday, with the average gallon going for $5.83. AAA's data shows that Washington State's overall average gas price hit an all-time high on Wednesday at $4.89 per gallon, as many areas recorded their highest ever average gas prices. That's more than 20 cents higher than the state's average 1 month ago. Gas prices continue going up in western Washington and across the country as the cost of oil remains high at around $100 per barrel as of Tuesday. The media keeps saying the key reasons for this rise in the price of gas is Russia's ongoing invasion of Ukraine and rising inflation. No kidding. President Joe Biden addressed inflation on Tuesday in a speech during which he called inflation his top domestic priority. Meanwhile, we are sending $40 billion to Ukraine. Why don't you use some of that money at home and give us some relief? And Oregon continues to shoot itself in the foot when it comes to jobs and energy. The Oregon Court of Appeals affirmed a recent land use decision that upheld the city of Portland's right to deny Zenith Energy a permit to operate its Northwest Portland oil tank facility Wednesday. Zenith's facilities store oil that arrives by train and ships it out from a dock in Northwest Portland's industrial zone on the Willamette River. The facility has been under scrutiny from city officials and environmental activists, which would be two of the same, for years for its contribution to climate change. Portland City Council banned the expansion of fossil fuel infrastructure in Portland in 2016, but Zenith has still been able to increase the amount of oil it ships out of Portland because the facility owners applied for construction permits prior to the ban. Zenith has quietly increased its crude oil imports since 2017, all while telling city officials it was phasing out oil transportation in favor of diesel distribution. When Zenith had to renew its air permit from the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality in 2012, the city was provided an opportunity to intervene in the facility's operations. As part of the renewal process in early 2021, the DEQ gave city officials an opportunity to determine whether or not the facility's operations were still in line with Portland's updated land use policies. In August, Portland officials decided that Zenith's transport of crude oil was not in adherence to the city's climate goals and denied the company a land use permit it needed to obtain the DEQ air permit. Permit. Without an air permit, Zenith cannot legally operate. Zenith challenged the city's decision in October, sending the case to the Land Use Board of Appeals. In February, LUBA affirmed the city's right to deny Zenith the land use document prompting Zenith to appeal that decision to the Oregon Court of Appeals. On Wednesday, the Oregon Court of Appeals affirmed LUBA's decision. For many environmental activists, the concern is not just Zenith's imports and exports of fossil fuels, but the fact that the company's oil trains run through Portland neighborhoods. Yes, trains run through the city, where they contribute to air pollution and pose a threat of derailing in residential areas. How often does that happen? I'm just wondering. This goes on to say the city of Portland did the right thing when it denied Zenith Energy's application to continue bringing dangerous fossil fuels through our neighborhoods, said State Rep Con Pham. Following the LUBA decision, the city should continue to uphold its commitments to climate justice and continue the fight until dangerous fossil fuels are no longer being transported through our community. Well, do you want to go back to horse and buggy? Because if you do, let's do it. But we can't be in this middle ground where you don't want any of the things, the technology we currently use, but you have nothing else, no alternative to go to, no viable alternative to go to. So you're going to have to decide what's it going to be. And in the meantime, you're killing people's jobs and you're killing energy, and we need that energy to survive currently. So come up with something viable, put that in place, and then cut the fossil fuel. It's common sense. You can't just cut fossil fuel and everything we use currently without having something in place to go to besides words and talk and happy thoughts and feelings. And Oregon could be looking at brownouts this summer. The state is implementing new electricity utility power shutoff rules for wildfire emergencies. The Oregon Public Utility Commission yesterday entered an order into the record approving the permanent rules. They apply to investor-owned electric utilities, including Portland General Electric, Pacific Corp, and Idaho Power, regarding public safety power shutoffs. A PSPS is an important safety measure designed to help protect people and communities in high fire risk areas by proactively shutting off electricity during extreme and dangerous weather conditions. The local jurisdictions and the public they're saying that if this happens, that they will try to update people every 24 hours until service is restored. So you can expect that if weather gets dry and windy and there are fires, that they're going to shut your power off. What they're saying is, to prepare for a potential power outage, you should be 2 weeks ready. 2 weeks ready. With food, medical supplies, batteries, pet supplies, and other things needed by family members during an outage or evacuation. For individuals with a medical condition that requires power, you should contact your service provider in advance of an outage to register a medical certificate. This certification provides added benefits and helps the utility ensure they meet your needs in the event of an outage. Yeah, I wouldn't count on that. And if they kill the lines, there's no way they can just keep your house on. So keep that in mind. They also say to consider getting a backup generator or alternative location for power needs. Keep your cell phone fully charged. Make sure your utility service provider has current contact information for notifications. You can access outage and PSPS information online for Portland General Electric, Pacific Power, and Idaho Power. Good news for you, Oregon. Maybe some of that $40 billion that went to the Ukraine could have been used to bury power lines so they don't start fires. And a U.S. Court of Appeals on Wednesday ruled that California's ban on the sale of semi-automatic weapons to adults under 21 is unconstitutional. In a 2-1 ruling, a panel of the San Francisco-based 9th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals said Wednesday that law violates the Second Amendment right to bear arms, and a San Diego judge should have blocked what it called an almost total ban on semi-automatic centerfire rifles for young adults. Surprisingly, that the San Francisco Court of Appeals would do this, but this is good news for gun owners and Second Amendment believers. And I reported yesterday on the drought and water restrictions in Southern California. Now, California regulators on Thursday will vote on whether to approve a proposed $1.4 billion plant to convert seawater to drinking water. The project billed as a partial solution to a sustained drought that threatens the state's economic health. Yeah, this is something they need to do. In deciding the fate of the Huntington Beach desalination plant, the California Coastal Commission must weigh an expert recommendation to kill the project against pressure from Governor Gavin Newsom to approve it. The vote will follow a hearing at Costa Mesa Hotel Conference Room. The plant, proposed by Poseidon Water, a company controlled by the infrastructure arm of Canada's Brookfield Asset Management, would convert enough Pacific Ocean water into drinking water for 400,000 people. But staff experts at the Coastal Commission said the process would harm marine life and nearby bird habitat while producing water that would be costly for low-income consumers. California needs water, people. You environmentalists have got to pull your heads out. I mean, are we just not going to have water? We're not going to have energy? And I don't understand your line of thinking. California has nowhere else to get water from. We need to stop listening to these green loonies, these environmentalist wackos who are just running us into the ground. Like I said, if we're going back to the pioneer days, let's go back. But let's not be in this middle ground where we're stuck with none of the things we need to survive in this world as it is presently and nothing else viable to go to. Make up your mind. This has been Pacific Northwest Headline News. For more, visit BehindTheLinePodcast.com. Thanks for listening.